What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla stock, what you should be watching for as time progresses. I'm also going to talk about some very important levels and some big things going on in the markets right now. But before I break anything down, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account. You are guaranteed up to 5 of free stocks. Put in $1,000 and you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. Now let's talk about the market, guys. So I want to apologize, guys. In my morning video, I was talking a lot about the earnings that were coming out from the banks and all these other pieces of news, and I ended up running out of time because the market was about to open. So I kind of rushed on the technical side of things. I just went over levels very briefly, and I was very quick with that part. And I felt like I didn't really do enough to really break down the technicals. So I want to do a better job at that and just talk about some levels in more detail for you guys, and talk about something else that's going on. So I just want to mention that Apple had the head and shoulders like structure. It played out very nicely. Apple dropped all the way down to 181, but it got a big bounce after we got some big news that came out. This actually helped the market bounce as a whole. So the US Supreme Court has snubbed Epic Games' illegal battle with Apple. This is some big news that came out. Basically, it declined to hear a challenge by Apple to a lower court's decision requiring changes to certain rules in its App Store, and also turned away Epic's appeal of the lower court's ruling that Apple's App Store policies limited how software is distributed and paid for in a way that doesn't really violate antitrust rules. So that's very important news. As a result of this, Apple bounced very, very nicely. And then this helped the market track back up. It wasn't just that, of course, there were also other factors. Tesla was also helping the markets. Tesla was also like outperforming from the beginning. It was very, very interesting to see. And I didn't really see too much news that came out that caused that as of right now. This may have changed, but for now, I didn't really see that. So this had more to do with like technicals and factors like that. So I want to now start off by talking about Tesla. Let's now talk about Tesla before I break down Apple and the others. What's happening with Tesla? So basically, we're starting to see a lot of buyers defending Tesla. The bulls are starting to play defense very, very strongly. And on top of this, I just wanted to mention that with them defending, they're trying to get Tesla back above the weekly 200 moving average. So if you look at the weekly chart, the 200 moving average happens to be around, uh, you know, right over here around this 218 area. I'm going to be watching that very, very carefully. We also haven't had resistance. A very important resistance is the weekly 50 moving average around 224.92. Tesla is trying to push. It's still holding up quite nicely, in my opinion. I'm going to be watching to see how well it holds from this point on. Now, another thing that's worth noting about Tesla is that this thing dropped very hard. We actually lost the 200 moving average, which is not looking too good. And when the bulls had seen this, we actually saw a big shift in the algorithms, especially because the big flow is showing a lot of puts being bought. So we saw lots of massive put orders on Tesla. And as soon as that came out, we start to see this thing bounce. So this is kind of like resembling a mini short squeeze on Tesla, but in order for this to continue, we need to see Tesla break certain levels. So what are the levels right now? Tesla is in a decent place now. It's trying to hold above the 200 moving average, is kind of fighting around here. So I'll be watching that very carefully. Don't forget to pay attention to that. But here are some very important levels. So Tesla has resistance in this 222 to 222.5 area. A break above 222.5 sets the next resistance at 223.5. If we break 223.5, the next resistance will be around 225. That's very close to where this top happened to be in this 225 zone. And a break above that gives you 226.5, 228, and then 230 above that. Those are all some resistance levels. 228 will be one important one, so will 230. But I'll be watching all of those very carefully just to be safe. For support, we are kind of like fighting around this 222 area. There's a little bit of support around. Basically, it's just under 221, so we're very close to that. It's very minor though, nothing too serious. 220 is where you have a more important support. This aligns very, very closely with the 0.236 retracement. And if we end up losing this, there's 217.6, excuse me, guys, to 218. Then we have 215 to 216. The 0.618 retracement from a Fibonacci level is around 216.5. I already calculated this for you guys. So the 216s to 215s will be next if we end up losing 218. And if we lose 215, then we have 213.8 and 212. So what is Tesla doing? It pushed very nicely to 223.5, starting to reject just a bit. But so far, it's not looking that bad. I mean, it depends on where we end up closing. I'll be watching that very carefully. So for now, when I go back to the smaller time frames on Tesla, you could see that Tesla is still it kind of rejected off that area, that 223.5 resistance. It is slowing down just a little bit, but we're approaching our 20 EMA around 219.68 to 220. That range right there is going to be very important for Tesla. We'll see if it holds that or not. That's going to be very important for it. I also have more levels drawn out here, like the 200 EMA and etc. I'll be watching those if we end up getting that rejection or not. But for now, make sure you watch your levels. No, Tesla has rejected just a bit, but even though it rejects, it's not like crashing or anything like that. It's still holding up decently. And we're going to be watching to see how well it holds, at least as time goes on. Now, another reason why Tesla popped could be because of another piece of news. I didn't really see too much news just yet, but for now, here are other levels. In the morning, I mentioned that we had this channel. Tesla actually broke out of this, so this is like a breakout attempt. We also had resistance over here where this gap was. What I thought in the morning was, I was thinking that we either hold this, resistance right over here because Tesla was below the 200 moving average. Instead, we start off below, but then we got bought back up. I told you if we did get a breakout, see if we reject off very close to 220. I was thinking that it might pop and then drop there. Instead, we didn't actually reject off 220. We actually held it very nicely. So it's a little bit stronger than what I was expecting. We pumped even higher than expected, but we are starting to drop just a bit. So we'll be watching the support very carefully. The 221 zone, then 220 is going to be key. Let's see how well Tesla holds. There was a small rejection, but watch your levels just to be safe. Now, what about for SPY? I want to talk about SPY very, very closely. So SPY actually started off very weak, got this big drop all the way down to about 473.5. Then it got a nice bounce. This was actually another liquidity grab. They triggered stops right here. So this was like a stop trigger, and it actually got bought back up. In my morning video, I said that there's a chance that SPY might actually get a push up, grab liquidity. They're grabbing liquidity up here, but I still think there's going to be a later sell off coming, right? So I called out this little potential pop that could be coming before this thing sells off later on in the future. I hold it the same view, but we're just not ready to sell off yet. It could take a little bit longer than expected. So right now, watch support at 476 flats. We have some decent support there. 475.5, 475, followed by 474 and these lower levels. Then we have 472.9. For resistance, you're going to be watching basically 476.5. If we break this, we have 477. There's a little bit of resistance there, and there tends to be quite a bit of resistance between 477 and 478. 478 is tight, guys. We tend to get rejected here all the time. We got like almost four rejections there. So you want to be very careful once we get to that 477 to 478 area. We tend to be very tight up there, so be very careful. What do I see in the chart right now? Well, in order for me to answer, I have to go to smaller time frames. I would say on the 5 minutes time frame, SPY has that resistance. We have key support right now at the 20 EMA. I'd be watching that very carefully. It is starting to turn. Just I wouldn't necessarily say it's kind of turning. It's more like it's kind of trending around here, trending sideways. But it's kind of chopping around this very important level because it's very close to where the green zone would be. We're just down like 0.07%. That's what tends to happen when you hit that resistance. So it's kind of choppy right now and might just continue to trend just for a bit. And we'll see if this thing can try to break out higher later on. They might try to push it hard to grab more liquidity. So I did call this out yesterday as a possibility. But once again, guys, I still hold my same view about the risk of the downside. It's just that the downside risk may take longer than expected, could take a few weeks, could take a few days. So watch this resistance. We'll see how this thing holds up. It's holding up nicely, so we'll see how it goes. For the QQQ, this is actually a little bit stronger than what I was expecting. I was telling you we might see this thing retest the 410s for a bit. It actually went a little bit higher. We actually had 411. And now the QQQ is just kind of shuffling and very close to 411. So what I would say is that here are very important levels to watch for on the QQQ. Basically, we're trying to hold above 410. 410 is where we had this resistance. We actually broke above it thanks to Nvidia and also thanks to Aapl bouncing after the Supreme Court decision. So watch these wicks right here. This is actually where we have resistance in the 411 area. We also have resistance at 412 and then 413 above that, very close to where the all-time high happens to be. If we get above the 413s, I mean, we could technically get very close to almost 415. Technically, it is possible, but just to be safe, I'll be watching to see. I'm not really counting on that to happen like right now, but I just want to mention that. So for support, watch 410. If we lose that, watch this wick right here. Previous resistance becoming support very close to 409. There's 408.09, and then if we break below that, We'll be looking for some moves around 406.8, 405.7, and 404 and 402. Right now, the QQQ, we got this nice push up. We watch to see how it holds this support at 410. It's starting to shuffle a bit right now as we just approached the next hour. So watch it very carefully. See how we hold around this 410 area. Do we lose this or not? That is going to be key. Is the market about to turn right now? It might be happening in real time. So we'll just wait and see. But don't forget to watch these levels very carefully. And then on the smaller time frames, watch and see if we end up getting a turn like on the MACD or anything like that. We're currently approaching the 20 EMA. The market's trying to turn right here, so you want to be very careful. I think that this is going to affect Tesla as well. We're approaching 220, so we'll see how the market holds. It is starting to turn a bit, guys, so be a little bit careful. Watch the 20 EMA. So this is what I would be doing in real time as we start turning. Watch the 20 EMA as a critical support, and the MACD is starting to turn now. So if we lose this, we have our next level down here, right? That's that's one of the ways I kind of like watch these levels. Now let's mention Apple. Apple got a big bounce after the Supreme Court decision, but now in the 5-minute time frame, it is kind of like fighting the 200 EMA. If we break this around 184, it can be pushed into the 185s. If it rejects, there's 182.8, the 20 and 50 EMAs are going to be coming next if we get this rejection. So Apple's at resistance right now. Here are some levels on Apple I just want to mention now. I just want to call out the minor levels right there. If it breaks 184, that's the 200 EMA. We also have 184.25 to 184. Break that, and then we have this gap to fill around 185. If we end up coming back down, we're going to be looking for this previous resistance becoming support. So like right here at 182.5-ish, 182.6. Very close to this level is going to be our next support. If we lose 183.5, then we have 182, 181, and then 180 below that. Apple's kind of shuffling right now, so we'll see if we could try to break 184 or not, or if we get a rejection. It's testing the 200 EMA on the 5-minute time frame. Watch that very carefully and see if we could try to break or not. The market is starting to shuffle quite a bit. So watch and see. If we break this resistance, there's a gap to fill above. It could try to bounce. If not, we'll just have to wait and see. When it came to the head and shoulders, this did play out, guys. This technically did play out. We had this left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. We actually got a big drop. Apple went from 185 all the way down to 181, a big drop, guys, and within a day. And now it's trying to bounce thanks to the Supreme Court decision. So we'll see if this holds or not. So watch the resistance and we'll see how it goes. Nvidia was the ticker that was even stronger than what I was expecting. It actually broke out above the resistance and made a new high, new all-time high again. So it's very strong, breaking above 550 and 552. So this was harder than expected. What are some levels to watch for? Basically, it's very simple. Nvidia has a tendency of testing. Basically, we have support right here around 562.5. That's critical support. Below that, we have 560, 557, 555, and then 552 as our supports. Resistance watch 565. If that breaks, then we have 567, 570, then 572.5. So that's like the pattern on Nvidia. It tends to move in 2.5 moves, at least that many points. Those are where the resistance levels tend to be. So watch that very carefully. Right now, Nvidia is kind of shuffling right now. We're going to be watching to see if it rejects here or not. It's still trying to hold up. It's still getting bought up. Looking at the order flow, it's still not looking too bad. But watch and see this 565 area is kind of shuffling around this range. So we'll see if this holds or not. So Nvidia, the trend is still favoring the bulls. We got a strong uptrend technically. But watch this 565 resistance. We'll see if this can break or not because we already pumped so much. So Nvidia, with all this pumping, you want to be very, very careful. You want to be very patient with it. Being up over 3%, it's very important to watch it. And with this turning on the MACD, you want to be very careful simultaneously. But with that being said, I just want to thank every single one of you so much for listening. I hope this video was helpful. Once again, I do apologize for kind of rushing my early morning video. It's just because I was waiting for all the bank announcements to come out because we had the bank earnings, right? That took a while. And then, when I was recording the technical side of things, the market was getting very close to market open. I was like, I did not want to be recording during that time because I had to actually get going to do something else. So I kind of rushed my morning video a bit. I am very sorry about that. I'll try not to do that again. And then for that, and with that being said, just watch the levels I called out. This is more relevant for the people watching, at least after the first couple of hours. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. So thank you for listening. This is a very important video. Have a great day and peace out.